Alright, so today's video is actually about an essay that I am writing for class, so I figured I'd make a video about it as well. Two birds, one stone. So what today's video is about is why younger generations are having less sex. I feel like this might sound a bit goofy to everyone. It definitely sounded a bit goofy to me because this generation seems to be having more. At least they're definitely talking about sex more and they've normalized it and destigmatized it more. But the truth is that actually we are having significantly less. And we're also starting to have sex a lot later, having less sexual partners, and the frequency. Married couples are having less sex than they used to. Why is this happening though, is the question that people are currently trying to answer. And that is the question that I am gonna hang out and have a few thoughts on with you all today. If you finish the video and decide that you like it, or even if you don't finish the video, maybe go and press the like button. I think that would be nice. And if you aren't subscribed to my channel, then please scroll down a tiny bit and hit the subscribe button. It's right there and super easy to do. Right, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about, which I think is decreasing all of the hooking up, is ironically hookup culture, which has been on the rise for a minute and is definitely a choice that we have made, which you would think would mean people were having more sex with more people, right? That is not what it means at all. What it actually means is that people are getting into relationships a lot less often and also a lot later in their lives. Instead we have this more like casual seeing people or talking to someone or hooking up. And one fact that is definitely a fact is that people who are in relationships are more likely to be f***ing. So the fact that we are not in as many relationships may very well be contributing to the fact that we are not. I feel like this offers a few explanations as to why we're having less sex. One of them is definitely about like comfort and security and safety, which a lot of people definitely prefer or even need in order to be comfy getting all smoochy with another person. And this is basically non-existent in hookup culture. Like talking about your feelings is just not something that's going on. People see it as cringe or embarrassing. So basically a lot of people are just not comfy having sex with people in a casual way. So they're just not doing it. Also it puts communication like straight out the window. And communication is the most important part of good sex. The more casual the relationship is, the harder it is to communicate what you want and take the kind of time or have the incentive to learn what the other person likes. So generally the quality of sex could be better. And honestly, I just think having bad sex is a very valid reason for people just not wanting to do it ever. Anyway, we all know that I have no strong opinions on hookup culture whatsoever, and I definitely didn't make a video specifically on all of the things that I hate about it. If you haven't seen that one, go watch it after you finish this. I'll put the link up there and also in the description. Okay, the next reason for less sex is so fun, and also something that I think is going to get significantly worse or better depending on your perspective on things, and that is that things like sex toys, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say P-O-R-N on YouTube, but they're becoming a lot more accessible and a lot more common. Like if you look at the statistics of people that own or have used a sex toy, it is like 8 billion% more than it used to be. Basically people are just doing their own little sex thing by themselves more often than they are with other people because it's easier and it's less stressful and it's less effort. So there's kind of less need to be doing with other people. Although this relates to a whole other topic, which is like what people's sexual motivations are. This here is kind of more based on the assumption that people's sex motive is just pleasure. So that argument kind of falls apart when you look at the other motives people have, like intimacy and self-esteem stuff. Also, we all know that correlation does not equal causation. So just because these two things are both happening, it doesn't necessarily mean that the fact that people are doing more solo sex stuff means that is what's causing less partnered sex. It could be the opposite. It could be that people are having less sex for some other reason, and as a result of this they are using self-alternatives to make up for the fact that they can't get sex somewhere else. So like I cannot definitively say anything here about which is causing which, or even whether they're just both happening at the same time and are completely unrelated. Okay, next is, and I'm sorry for the boomer vibes in this one, but we as a generation are just so online now to the point where we've kind of become like socially weird little freaks. We are not very good at talking to each other in person or meeting each other in person. In older generations, it would be so normal to approach someone at the library or at a bar or at work and just like have a chat with them, but that's not something that happens now. Now the mentality is more that approaching people in public is very, very, very weird. weird and creepy. And at this point I do want to interject and say that for a lot of people, being approached in public is very creepy and unwanted. So this like cultural shift might for some people be quite a good thing. But I think this is such an interesting discussion to have, because I know also for a lot of people, they wouldn't find it weird or uncomfortable at all if someone like spoke to them in public. But if you have any thoughts on this, I really would love to hear it and get some perspectives on this, because I genuinely have no real conclusion. But going back to the point, now relationships generally tend to start online more than anywhere else. That seems to be like the most normal way, or maybe even the only normal way of meeting people anymore. And the problem with this, I think, is that usually you are using dating apps from the comfort of your own bed, or at least that's what I am doing. And let me tell you, if I am not already outside my house and someone asks me to meet up and leave my bed, I'm gonna say no, I'm in bed. So basically I just feel like the interactions that we're having online are really not translating into actual real world interactions. A lot of people are using dating apps to meet people, but they're never actually taking it outside of their phones. Also here, actually, a thought that I'm having right now is how scary this actually is, because we can present ourselves however we want to on the internet. Like, we're obviously going to be putting our best self forward. We're going to be choosing the most attractive photos of us. We're going to have the time to construct and think about messages in a way that you don't have in real world conversations. So this adds like a whole new layer of fear to dating, because you're wondering whether these people are going to be comparing you to your pictures from online or the way you talk online. And honestly, I have just given myself a new dating fear that I will be worried about from now on. Good job, Katie. But yeah, my point here is basically just that real life interaction is just not happening the way that it used to be. I think with the statistics of the decrease in sex, I think if we were including things like e-sex and phone sex and sexting and all of that stuff, the results would be very, very, very different, and we would be having a bunch more sex, I would say. I do feel like this goes along quite well with my next point, which again, I'm so sorry, is social media, and how basically all of the bodies and people that we're seeing are so conventionally like perfect looking. Now we're all just so much more insecure about the way we look. Like, you see all of the cosmetic surgery and the rise of everyone just absolutely hating their bodies. And it's like, yeah, okay, no shit. If people want to throw up whenever they think about themselves naked, it kind of makes sense why they would probably not want to be getting naked in front of a whole nother person. I think people are just becoming like more and more uncomfortable inside their own bodies, which is so sad. And it feels like every 4 seconds there's some new physical feature that someone on the internet has decided is like the right or the wrong way to have a body, and everyone's suddenly comparing themselves to that and adding it onto the long list of things that are wrong with them and that they need to change. And it's so gross, and I hate it. I think that this kind of links into my last point, which is just that people's expectations about sex now are so kind of f***ed up. I feel like 4 seconds of mediocre missionary used to be enough for people, but now it's like you need to be lasting 8 hours and 30 position changes, including all these weird like gymnastics things, and it has to be super rough, and everyone automatically has to be super good at everything and know exactly what they're doing without having to ask. And if you cannot meet all of these criteria, then you are boring and terrible at sex. I feel like internet culture and the way people talk has made it seem so important for every person to be like a freak in bed or like a sex god. And it's so stressful, especially, and this is kind of going back to my point about online talking, especially if you've been talking to someone online and you've been saying all this like stuff that you want to do because it's stuff that you've heard online you're meant to want to do, stuff that you've been told is hot. Then they want to meet up in person and you do not want to do any of the stuff you've been talking about because you've just been saying that because that's what you've been told people are meant to like. And so you make up an excuse to not actually have real life sex with them and be exposed as a fraud. Actually, I think I might have talked about this in my video on the lies people tell about sex, or it might have been a different video. I get myself confused. But either way, the lies about sex video is fun. You can go watch that right now actually, because this one's finished. I'll put the link up here and also in the description with the hookup culture one that you were going to go watch if you haven't seen it already, because you thought that that one sounded really cool. But yeah, that's all. This is literally based on 4 minutes of research I've done so far for my essay, so I might have some firmer conclusions because currently this is literally just me having a guess. But yeah, I might come back with some real facts and research, or I might just find out that I'm correct about everything. But anyway, thank you for hanging out with me today. As always, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think about these things. And also please like the video. little thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Okay, love you, bye.